Welcome to this high-energy masterclass explainer designed specifically to elevate your Cambridge 9706 accounting performance from average to absolute top tier. I am your master coach, an expert Cambridge examiner, and I know exactly where students are bleeding easy marks. Today, we're broadcasting straight from our digital studio, utilizing our interactive holographic smartboard to tackle one of the most critical yet brutally misunderstood areas of the entire syllabus. We're going to completely demystify adjustments to draft financial statements, focusing laser-like on the allowance for irrecoverable debts. Now, I have a complex, high-tariff 15-mark sample question loaded onto the smartboard right now. A question this heavy isn't just about balancing the books, it's about proving to the Cambridge examiners that you actually think like a seasoned professional accountant. We are going to dissect the complex constraints of this prompt, master the exact strategies you need for optimal time allocation, and deploy critical thinking frameworks that will completely transform the way you approach your exam papers. So, grab your notebooks, clear every single distraction, and let's unlock those top-tier marks together.
Look at this quote from a recent principal examiner report. The stakes are incredibly high today. This insight brilliantly illustrates exactly where the battle for top marks is won or lost. It says the difference between a B and an A star often comes down to this exact topic. Why? Because adjusting for an allowance for irrecoverable debts tests your absolute judgment under extreme pressure. Before we even look at the numbers for a 15-mark question, we absolutely have to dissect the command word anatomy. Look at the digital highlighter on the board. We need to deeply contrast the word analyze versus evaluate. If the prompt says analyze, it's asking you to take the financial data apart, show how the allowance is calculated, and explain the direct impact on the income statement. But if the command word is evaluate, that is a whole different ballgame. Evaluate demands that you judge the validity of the accounting policy itself. It demands you weigh up the prudence concept against the matching concept, consider alternative percentage rates, and then deliver a conclusive, justified verdict. Anyone can memorize a formula, but only an elite student can evaluate a complex, ambiguous business scenario.
Okay, let's quickly hit our agenda so we know the flight path. We are covering the B versus A star difference, core accounting principles, the method mark strategy, top examiner warnings, and finally, critical evaluative analysis. Let's keep moving.
Section 1. The B versus A star difference, unlocking top-tier marks. Top-performing students exhibit connected, conceptual understanding, transferable to unfamiliar contexts. Let's finish our command word breakdown here on the smartboard. The examiner is actively scanning your paper for specific cognitive markers. Let's look at another tricky pair, explain versus to what extent. If the question asks you to explain the need for an allowance, you are just dropping assessment objective 1 and 2 knowledge, giving reasons why prudence dictates we don't overstate our receivables. But if it asks, to what extent is the allowance for irrecoverable debts a subjective estimate? Wow, now you are locked into a high-level assessment objective 3 debate. You have to acknowledge the hard mathematical data, but then argue the subjective human element of predicting future defaults based on past trends. You have to show that regurgitating facts is simply not enough. A solid B-grade student perfectly defines the debt. True A-star mastery requires taking your conceptual knowledge and confidently applying it to that strange, bizarre, totally unfamiliar business model the exam throws at you. You don't panic. You rely on your connected understanding to navigate the unknown constraints of the prompt. Section 2. Core accounting principles, the foundation of success.
To really dig into this, we are transitioning over to our collaborative digital study suite. I want to introduce our 2 scholars working on this exact 15-mark problem today. We have Alex, who is highly technical, absolutely excels at formulas and facts, but sometimes struggles with open-ended evaluation. And we have Sam, our creative thinker, super strong at building arguments, but often struggles with structural precision and strict time allocation. Let's listen in as they tackle this definition. Okay, looking at the board, an allowance for irrecoverable debts is a conceptual framework drawing on established principles of systematic analysis. This means we just need to rigorously apply the aging schedule percentages to the receivables ledger, right? It's a purely factual approach. We just execute the math and move on.
Wait, Alex, look at the second half of that definition. It literally says evidence-based reasoning. I think if we just do the math, we're missing the bigger picture. We have to look at the broader economic context of the business. Are they in a recession? Are their main clients going bankrupt? The math is just the starting point. The reasoning is the actual answer.
Do you see what is happening here? Alex is trying to secure the descriptive marks, but Sam is aggressively pushing for the analytical depth. Academic benchmarks prioritize logical, structured reasoning over superficial breadth. You have to merge both of their approaches to act as a true financial detective. Actively ask yourself this question. Why do so many capable students find applying these concepts to unfamiliar contexts so incredibly hard? Let's check back in with the debate happening in our study suite. Sam, I totally get what you're saying about the broader context, but if the exam gives us a completely unfamiliar scenario, like a software-as-a-service company with deferred revenue, I'm gonna freeze. I just want to stick to the standard T-account formats I've memorized. How do we even unlock those top-tier marking bands when the context is alien? I think that's the exact trap examiners set, Alex. Assessment Objective 1 is knowledge, Assessment Objective 2 is application, and Assessment Objective 3 is analysis and evaluation. If we just rely on muscle memory for T accounts, we max out at AO1 and maybe some AO2. To hit AO3, we have to strip the unfamiliar context down to its bare economic reality. What is the actual underlying risk of non-payment? That's what we need to evaluate. Sam is absolutely spot on. The elite strategy isn't trying to remember a similar past paper question. It's returning to the absolute core principles of systematic analysis and building your answer from the ground up, no matter how strange the scenario looks.
Moving right along to Section 3, the Method Mark Strategy, proving your professional process. Okay, things are about to get really intense as Alex and Sam draft their model response. But before we watch them solve the absolute hardest part of this 15-mark problem, I am pausing this session. I need to talk directly to you. If you are serious about transforming your Cambridge grades from average to A-star, you need consistent elite-level strategy. So right now, I need you to hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGCSE O and A levels at acetheexam_IGCSE. Go ahead, click the subscribe button popping up on your screen, and absolutely smash that notification bell, enabling all notifications so you never miss our weekly Cambridge Breakthrough Strategies. Done? Awesome. Let's unpause. Alex and Sam are actively drafting their response paragraph by paragraph on the smartboard. Let's see how they handle the sequence.
Okay, step 1. I've identified the key elements. The gross receivables are $80,000.
Step 2, applying the prudence principle.
Right, and step 3, I'm executing the analysis with working. The allowance needs to be adjusted from 3% to 5% because of the new data on customer defaults. So that's an increase of $1,600.
I'll quickly verify the results for step 4. The math checks out perfectly. Let's throw it into the final paragraph and move on. We literally only have 10 minutes left.
Wait, how do we link this calculation to the evaluative conclusion? I'm totally stuck on how to structure this final paragraph without just repeating the numbers over and over.
And there it is. They have hit a massive roadblock regarding paragraph linking and timing. Let's see how we fix this.
I'm using our picture-in-picture feature to pause their session and step in here. Alex and Sam have the right numbers, but they are about to bleed massive marks on step 5. Presenting in the appropriate format. Let me explain the cognitive strategy required to get unstuck here. Examiners are demanding strict adherence to procedural conventions to master, proper headings, correct terminology, appropriate formats, and clear annotations. Sam is struggling to link the paragraphs because there is no structured format to the argument. When you're writing an evaluative paragraph in accounting, you don't just dump the numbers. You use the statement evidence impact framework. You state the adjustment, you provide the evidence from your working, and then you evaluate the impact on the financial statements. This isn't just about making your paper look pretty. It demonstrates your readiness for professional accounting environments. If you hand an examiner a perfectly calculated adjustment, but it uses slang, lacks proper terminology like income statement or statement of financial position, and has zero clear annotations tying the math to the business reality, your A-star is gone. You are role-playing as a professional. Act like one.
Let's use a memory hack, a visual story method, to permanently standardize this procedural sequence. I want Alex and Sam to rewrite their flawed section right now, out loud, using this exact framework. Let's listen to the transition from a mediocre answer to a flawless, full-mark response.
Okay, let's restructure this entirely. Heading, Evaluation of Allowance Adjustment. Statement, the allowance for irrecoverable debts must be increased by $1,600.
Nice, that's clear. Now for the evidence.
Evidence. This adjustment is necessitated by the aging schedule provided, which indicates a severe 20% default risk in the over 90 days category, completely overriding the previous flat 3% estimate.
And the impact, to finish it off.
Impact. By strictly applying the prudence concept, this specific adjustment ensures that the profit for the year in the income statement is not overstated, and the net realizable value of trade receivables in the statement of financial position is accurately and fairly represented.
Boom, flawless. Do you see how they locked that in? Visualizing the structure, statement, evidence, impact, creates a mental checklist that ensures you never leave those critical presentation and evaluative marks on the table.
Section 4. Top examiner warnings, pitfalls to avoid.
Welcome to Act 4. This is our immersive, interactive, pause and practice visual workshop. I am addressing you, the viewer, directly right now. We are looking at the top 3 mistakes from examiner reports, but we are going to learn by actively doing. Scene 1. I am putting visual question 1 up on the smartboard. It's a complex data source analysis showing a massive spike in a company's aging receivables over the last quarter. The 60-second visual countdown timer starts right now. I want you to look at that data and decide, based on mistake number 3, how would you provide an answer specific to this exact context? Tick-tock, if you just write the economy is bad, you completely fail the context test. You need to reference the exact quarter and the specific aging bracket that spiked. Okay, scene 2. Presenting visual question 2, the spot the flaw challenge. I am displaying a poorly written student answer on the screen. Your task is to find the 3 massive errors related to forgetting proper format, failing to check presentation, and generic answers. Read it carefully. Did you catch them? First, the student wrote profit and loss instead of income statement, a massive terminology error. Second, the calculation has no clear annotation linking it to the working notes. And third, the conclusion is entirely generic. This is exactly how you bleed marks under pressure.
Section 5. Critical Evaluative Analysis, Securing the Assessment Objectives.
Let me systematically highlight and annotate the screens to dissect the correct paths from our workshop. Look at this 3-column table mapping the assessment framework. This reveals the exact traps set by examiners. If you were stuck on the descriptive level in our workshop, you only answered, "What is it?" You just noticed the bad debts. If you got to the analytical level, you figured out, "How does it work?" You calculated the percentage. But to beat the spot the flaw challenge, you had to operate at the peak evaluative level. You must provide justified recommendations and alternatives. If the exam prompt says the directors want to decrease the allowance from 5% to 2% to artificially boost reported profits so they can get a bonus, you cannot just do the math. You must evaluate that proposal. You have to aggressively justify why maintaining a prudent 5% is legally and ethically necessary based on the evidence, absolutely tearing apart the director's optimistic alternative. This is what critical evaluative analysis actually looks like in a high-stakes environment.
As we wrap up this intense session, let's hear the personal breakthroughs from our scholars in the Digital Study Suite regarding generic versus context-specific answers. I realize now that my arguments, even when they were creative, were often way too generic. I've learned that providing a generic answer guarantees a B, but carefully linking every single point to the specific scenario is what guarantees the A-star. The context is literally everything. And for me, I see that just knowing the math and the formulas isn't enough to carry me. If the question details a technology company facing a sudden drop in consumer demand, my explanation for the allowance adjustment can't sound like a generic textbook example about a local grocery store. I have to weave the specific details of the prompt into my analytical reasoning. Exactly. The generic answer says the allowance is necessary due to bad conditions. The context-specific answer says, given that 40% of receivables are concentrated in the hospitality sector, maintaining a higher allowance is highly justified to adhere to prudence. You have to use the data as a weapon.
Let's synthesize this entire masterclass into 3 core, highly memorable pillars. I call these the rules of comparative analysis, but they are essentially your ultimate exam survival kit. Pillar 1, the 3-step question scan. You must always identify similarities and differences in the data before you write a single word. Pillar 2, the paragraph balance formula. You must use comparative connectives and support every single comparison with hard data evidence extracted directly from the prompt. Pillar 3, the last 5 minutes review checklist. In the final minutes of your exam, you must draw strong, justified conclusions about the relative importance of your findings. Don't just leave the data hanging on the page. Tell the examiner exactly what it means for the business's bottom line. Ensure your format is perfect, your headings are crisp, and your annotations are crystal clear. These 3 pillars will absolutely bulletproof your responses against the most brutal marking schemes.
We have completely deconstructed the examiner's playbook today. But knowledge without immediate application is entirely useless. So will you practice these procedural strategies today to ensure your next exam answer is flawless and context-specific? Crushing Cambridge exams doesn't happen by accident. It requires consistent, elite-level strategy. So before you go, you need to hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGCSE O and A levels at acetheexam_IGCSE. Turn on that notification bell right now for future exam hacks. And I want you to leave a comment down below with your exact target grade. Put it out there, commit to it. Keep studying hard, trust the strategic process, and rely on the systematic analysis we've built today. I will see you in the next masterclass.